Hello, Jan.
Hey, Sven.
How are you today?
I'm okay. I think I'm okay. You know, sometimes you're okay, sometimes you're not.
Yeah.
Today, I'm kind of not sure.
All right.
But here we are.
Here we are. And Jan, you are in a duet. And a duet is that you have prepared something for me. I will be inspired by that. And then I have prepared something for you. And I hope you will be inspired by that to give me something back.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
That sounds good. So I met you in 1996. I remember that. I was a driver. You remember that? I was a driver from Copenhagen to Roskilde. And I was a driver for all the English storytellers that came to visit Leida International Storytelling Festival. And I remember I sat you came into the car and we were literally just blabbing, talking all the way to Leida. And in the evening, I found you, and I got very drunk with Duncan Williamson, and you were there as well. And I think you said to us, "Well, it's about time now that we have some quietness." But I don't remember. You don't remember that, do you?
I remember very well because the funny thing was that because I call myself Jan, my real name's Janet, but I've always called myself Jan. And so in Denmark, Jan is Jan. And at that time, I was as bold as you are now. And I think you thought I was a man. So when you picked me, up from the airport, there was a bit of confusion because you kept saying, they told me that I had to pick him up, him. And I just said in the end, I said, look, I'm a woman, yeah? I'm not a man, I'm a woman. But I think because I have this voice, this deep contralto, I've been told it's called. My grandmother's nickname for me is Man Voice. Oh. I think you know why. So the voice and the bald head and the name created a lot of confusion, I think. It's very funny. But you're not the only person. You know, I've been into schools. When I used to shave my head, I've been into schools and the children would say, are you a man or a woman? You know, so I don't think there's any doubt now, though.
No. And you convinced me during that drive from, I think it's about 40 kilometers, 40 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
In the cab.
I found it very, very funny. But anyway, that's how we met. We've been friends ever since.
That's it. So you have something for me?
You know, it's very often that I come to tell a story or I come to a storytelling session, unless it's a planned show like the big epic that I'm working on, and I never know what I'm going to tell. My mind goes completely blank. So when I sat down here, my mind was completely blank. And then I thought, you know what, this is my 34th year of being a storyteller. And I'm sitting here now thinking that perhaps I could share a story that I've been telling consistently over those 34 years, not every day, obviously, but it's one of the questions that I'm asked sometimes, you know, when I teach workshops, is like, how do you breathe life into something that you've been telling for such a long time? But I think because I love it so much, it's easy to tell it, you know. When you fall in love, you remember, don't you? You love, you want to keep being in love. So I'm still in love with this story, so I tell it, okay? And if you want to hear my story, when I say crick, you say crack. Crick.
Crack.
Crick.
Crack.
Crick.
Crack.
Once upon a time, there was a hunter called Kwa. Kwa was loved by everybody in his village. Whenever he went out to fetch meat and came back, the people would sing his praise song. And the women would pull a leg. But this love and respect wasn't enough for Kwa. Kwa was a very ambitious man, and he wanted to be known as the chief hunter of the Hunters Association. And the only way to become chief hunter of the Hunters Association was to bring a creature back to the village that had never been seen before, an undiscovered species. So every day after dropping the meat, Kwa would go back out into the forest in search of this creature. And each time he would go deeper and deeper and deeper into the forest. One day he was at the deepest part of the forest. There was sunlight streaming down on this clearing. And as he was about to cross the clearing, he heard what he thought was a woman's voice singing. Asemponipo, onipano pasemo. Asemponipo, onipano pasemo. Kwa was fascinated. Who was singing in the forest? He looked, he couldn't see anybody, but yet the song continued. Asemponipo, onipano pasemo. Asemponipo, onipano pasemo. Which means trouble doesn't go looking for man. Man goes looking for trouble. But Kwa wasn't listening to those words. Kwa was fascinated. Who was singing the song? So he followed the strain of the song until he came to a big leafy green bush. He parted the leaves of the bush, and there was a creature he'd never seen before in his life. This creature carried its house on its back in the form of a shell. It had big eyes, it had a bony mouth, it had hands and legs that came in and out of the shell. And the creature looked up at Kwa and said, Asemponipo, onipano pasemo. Asemponipo, onipano pasemo. Trouble doesn't go looking for man. Man goes looking for trouble. But Kwa still wasn't listening. Kwa said, you are the creature I've been looking for. You are the creature that's going to make me the chief hunter of the Hunters Association. Come with me back to my village, and I will be given the honors that I deserve. But the tortoise, because as you know, that's what it was, just sang the song again and again and again. And in the end, Kwa lost all patience. He grabbed the tortoise, he threw it into his bag, he threw the sack across his back, and he made his way out of the forest, following the path that he had cut on his way in. And all the way back through the forest, the tortoise sang, Asemponipo, onipano pasemo. Asemponipo, onipano pasemo. All the way back to the village. And when he entered the village, of course, the people seeing him, and because they loved him, wow, went to his house, he put down the bag that contained the tortoise, and he ran all the way to the house of the chief. Now, in the Ashanti region of Ghana, where this story comes from, no common person is allowed to speak directly to the chief. They have to speak through the chief's linguist. So Kwa presented himself to the chief and then spoke to the linguist. He said, tell our leader that in my house now, there is a creature that sings with the voice of a woman. It carries its house on its back. It has big eyes. It has hands and legs that move in and out of this shell on its back. And I want to present this creature to everybody in the village square to prove that I am indeed the chief hunter of the Hunters Association, and I should be honored thus. So the linguist, having heard Kwa's words, turned to the chief and spoke. The chief listened, and then he spoke. The linguist turned to Kwa. He said, Kwa, the chief greets you, hopes your family is well. But he thinks that because you are blinded by your own ambition, you've forgotten one of the most important taboos of our village. You must not lie. And especially you must not lie to the chief. Now, he knows that you're driven by ambition. He knows you want to be chief hunter of the Hunters Association. And maybe this ambition has twisted you. So he's going to give you the option to go home, take these twisted words with you, never to be repeated again. Kwa said, no, I wouldn't come to the chief and lie. This creature is in my house. This creature is singing like a beautiful woman. A beautiful woman's voice is coming out of its mouth. Please give me the opportunity to prove that I am indeed the chief hunter of the Hunters Association. Tomorrow, when the sun has moved on from its highest point, I wish to present this creature to everybody in the village, so I will receive my honors. Very well, said the linguist. And he spoke once more to the chief. The chief listened. And then he spoke once more to the linguist. The linguist said, wow, the chief sees that you are sincere. Therefore, he will give you your opportunity. Tomorrow, when the sun has moved on from its highest point, we will all meet at the meeting place. You will bring your creature. You will ask your creature to sing. You will be given 3 opportunities. However, if after 3 opportunities your creature does not sing Kwa, your life will be forfeit. Your head will roll. Do you accept the terms? Yes, yes, said Kwa. Of course I accept the terms because the creature's in my house singing now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And he left. He went back home to prepare for the grand party he thought he would be having the next day, where he would receive the honor, chief hunter of the Hunters Association. When he got home, the tortoise was still in the bag singing, "Ah, semponipo, onipa no pasemo. Ah, semponipo, onipa no pasemo." Trouble doesn't go looking for man, man goes looking for trouble. Kwa wasn't listening. Kwa was cleaning. Kwa was practicing his acceptance speech. Kwa was choosing which of his ceremonial robes he would wear. And the tortoise kept singing all day, all evening, all night, all the next morning. The tortoise sang and sang and sang and sang. Then when the sun was at its highest point, the tortoise stopped singing. Kwa wasn't alarmed. Why should it be alarmed? Of course it needed to stop singing. It needed to rest its voice. Because when the sun moved on from its highest point, he was going to present the creature to everybody in the village. And it would need to be in fine voice. So Kwa wasn't worried. Kwa lifted the tortoise out of the bag. He polished its shell until it shone, put on his ceremonial robes, lifted the tortoise in one hand, and made his way out of the house and to the meeting place. Now, the people had heard the rumors, and the people had seen Kwa, and the people loved Kwa. People waited. Kwa's heart was full. The hunters had come from the 4 corners of the kingdom to witness this great event. And then the drummers began. Kudum, 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 kudum. The chief was arriving. The chief walked, he was carried rather, and a great parasol was above his head. On his right-hand side was his linguist. On his left-hand side, his executioner with a golden sword, just in case. And in front of him, a 6-year-old boy. The 6-year-old boy represented the purity of the chief's heart. The drumming and the ululating, the noise, it was beautiful, and Kwa's heart filled even more as he waited. Finally, the chief was lowered down to the ground. A stool was brought for him upon which to rest his feet. The boy sat in front of him, the linguist to the right, executioner to the left. The chief indicated to the linguist. The linguist said, "Kwa, it is time. Ask your creature to sing." And Kwa said, "Of course, of course, of course." The tortoise had now put her head inside her shell, head, hands, and feet. Kwa rested the tortoise on the ground, and he looked down into the black hole of the tortoise's shell, and he said, "My friend, it is time. The song you were singing when I found you in the forest, they're waiting to hear it now. Sing it for us now." Tortoise pulled her head out from under the shell, looked at everybody in the square, and smiled. Pulled her head back in. The people were a little nervous at this point because they knew the chief only ever gave people 3 chances, and Kwa could feel the frisson of fear go around the crowd. And Kwa said, no, please, please, do not fear. This creature was in the forest when I found it. It's probably nervous. It's probably never seen so many people. Please don't worry. It will sing. And then he spoke once more. He said, "My friend, don't be afraid. All these people are gathered here now to listen to your song. There's my chief, my mother, my father, my brothers, my sister. The whole village is here to listen to you. Please, Sing your song. Tortoise pulled her head out from under the shell, looked at everybody in the square and grinned. Pulled her head back under the shell. Now, even Quail got nervous. His heart was beating. His mother, his father, his family, they began to wring their hands. The chief only gave 3 chances. The chief spoke to the linguist. He said, Quail. Or rather, the chief spoke to the linguist who said to Quail, Quail, you were given the opportunity to take this story with you and go home. We didn't have to be here, but you accepted the terms. And here we are. And I cannot save you. Ask your creature to sing. Quail's knees turned to water. His heart was beating. He was sweating. He went on his knees and he looked deep into the tortoise's shell and he begged. He said, please, please, please. The song you were singing when I found you in the forest. It's time to sing it now. I only have 3 chances. My life is in your hands. Please, sing it for me now. They will kill me. Tortoise pulled her head out from under the shell, looked at everybody in the square and laughed. Pulled her head back under the shell. And nobody could believe what was happening. Nobody could believe this was Quail. Quail, he was a respected man. He was an honorable man. Quail didn't tell lies. Everybody trusted Quail. But yet here it was. And the chief only ever gave 3 chances. Chief clicked his fingers. The executioner stepped forwards and took Quail by the arm. Quail said, no, 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 no. It can sing. It can sing. It was singing in the forest. It was singing when I sang in my house. Give me one more chance. Give me one more chance. But the executioner was taking Quail to the place of execution. No, he said, no, no, please, give me a shame. And as Quail's head rolled, Tortoise pulled its head out from under the shell and sang. Ah, semponi po, onipano pasemo. Ah, semponi po, onipano pasemo. Ah, semponi po, onipano pasemo. Asemponi po, unipano pasemo. Trouble doesn't go looking for man. Man goes looking for trouble. When the people heard that, they couldn't understand. They said, why would Quail bring such a creature here? Why didn't he listen to what it sang? Quail's father stepped forwards. He bowed to the chief and he spoke to the people. He said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I apologize for my son's transgressions. He was deafened and blinded by his ambition. I can only apologize. I take it upon myself to take this creature back to the forest from whence it came. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And he took the tortoise. He took it out of the village, along the road, and through the forest, following the track that his son had cut to the clearing. And then he left the tortoise there, made his way home, to console his family. And since that day, in the Ashanti region of Ghana, they say that whenever children are misbehaving, their parents say, Asempo nipo onipano pasem. They also say that the tortoise is still in the forest now, singing its song. And that's the second end to that story.
You can make me cry, man. Oh, wow. Thank you, Jan. It was
it's my pleasure.
Heartfelt. I mean, wow. There's something about the way that you just sit there. You just sit there and just gets into the, you get into my spine somehow and just touches all these emotions and it just releases a lot of pain and a lot of joy. Right there, it's like connected to each other, because I mean, I was struck by the dad in the end there. I mean, he was literally lifting up the reason why his son was dead. And he just looks around and says, "Hey guys, I know what happened right here, and we have to listen to this. We have to be humble, and I'm going to carry this, whatever it is, out there in the forest again." And I could just feel, because I'm a dad myself, so it's like,
Mm.
and
Sorry, I made you cry, Sven.
no, it was good. It's a good cry. You know how it is. There is this joy. I mean, I sometimes watch the scene from Lassie Returns Home, just to see when Lassie is leaving the guy with the wagon with the little dog. The
Yes.
little dog is killed by the two men, and Lassie is
Yes.
like, "I want to go. It's 4 o'clock. I need to go." But there's a fight going on, and there's this little dog, and he hears this beating, and then Lassie returns home.
Yeah.
Just crying. And it's such a relief. It's such an, I am here. I'm alive with you. It was great. Thank you, Jen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Come on, you made me go to Namibia, and to the stories that they were sharing with me when I was in Namibia in 1991. I was doing a theater project there, and at one point, one of them came to me with a story, and it's sad, it's sort of vague, but I will give you the brief what it's all about. And
Okay.
it's about an old man coming down to the river drinking, but there's like it's like a brink. What do you call that? You go like this, and then it's steep. It's kind of dangerous to go.
The bank of the river?
The bank of the river. Yes, the bank of the river. Here's the grass, here's the bank of the river, and here is some smooth, nice sand. And he's trying to figure out how to get down there. Down by the river, there are 7 sisters, and they're joyful. Young women now, and they just chatter water and splashes and laugh, and they have a very good time. And he's standing there, and he says, "Is there anyone here that can help me?" And this old man would just look at him and laugh. 6 of the sisters just go like, "No, you can jump, old man. You can do whatever you like. We're not going to help you." But one of the sisters walks all the way, quite far, turn around, go up there, gets his hands, and help him down to the river so he can drink. And he says to her, "You're kind. You're very kind. But these others, your sisters, are not kind. And look, this is what I've done to them." And he leaves. And then she realized that not a sound. They're all gone. There's not a sound behind her. And she turns around, and there's 6 willow trees just by the bank of the river. And she, desperate, she tries to get them back to life, and she runs back to her family, and they come down with axes, but when they start cutting them, blood is coming out. And that's why by this bank of the river there are 6 willow trees, and they're crying.
I love it. You know I'm going to tell that story, right?
What?
I said, I'm going to tell that story. I love it.
No. I never. No. It's a story that's stuck in my mind ever. I never told it. I don't think I ever told it. You liked it?
I don't dislike it. I love it. I love it.
I love that you love it.
No, I love that. I love that. I really do. Because, it's too big to tell now, but, I have that story, Nyamgonda, son of Ombari.
Oh, yeah.
Turned into 3. It reminds me of that. Yeah. But it also reminds me of, because it's 7 sisters, it reminds me of a South African story, not from Namibia. But I don't know if you have something else you want to say before I share that with you.
Well, I was actually, I don't know. I mean, I have my prepared thing, but
please,
you want to see that now?
Yeah.
I'm going to do some preparations for that because I need to do this with the microphone. There's quite a lot of preparations going on right now. And at one point, I will mute you and everything. And
should I sing like the music that you have when you're in the lift?
Yeah.
When you're on the phone and they put you on hold whilst you're preparing, should I be like
And now, here we go. There they go. Falling snow. Excellent snow. Here it comes. Watch it fall. Long words. Excellent words. I can hear them now. This is the picture. 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 Sitting by the window, watching the snow fall. I'm looking out, and I'm moving, turning in time, catching up, moving in time. And I can land on my feet. Look out! This is the picture. 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 Looking out, I'm watching out. When I see this picture, I close my eyes. I can see it now. I see pictures of people rising up. I see pictures of people falling down. I see pictures of people standing on their heads, they're ready. I see pictures of people rising up. I see pictures of people falling down. I see pictures of people standing on their heads, they're ready. They're looking out. Look out.
I love that. That was brilliant. I love that. So unexpected. That was so unexpected. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. That was so cool, man.
I'm gonna turn this off.
The only reason I was laughing is because I have a very good friend called Richard Wright. You know Richard, you met him. And one of the things that I said to him is, because he hates to dance. He hates to dance. So I said, when I die at my funeral, you have to promise after the coffin has been taken into the building, you have to dress in a green leotard and you have to express your grief through the miracle of dance. And he keeps saying, no, people will think I'm the one guy in the room. Everyone will be crying like you're dead, and I'll be the one guy everyone will hate because I'll turn up and I'll be doing all these weird gyrations in my green leotard. I can't do it. I said, sorry, it's my deathbed wish. It's my dying wish. Even though I'm not dying, my dying wish is that you will dance a lot up the building when my coffin is. And if you don't do it, fine, but I will fake my own death in order to witness.
And you will come to him somehow and say, hey, something you forgot.
Exactly. But I just love the fact that was great. Was that Peter Gabriel?
That was Peter Gabriel and Laurie Anderson. It actually started with Laurie Anderson because I read that she was a Buddhist. And
I love Laurie Anderson as well.
I love her.
Really. I got into her very young. Oh, Superman, X equals X.
Yeah.
You know, that was my Laurie Anderson era. You know?
It's the same period. It's about the beginning of the 80s and made this with Peter Gabriel. And when I, yesterday, I sat down and I made this. Look who is on this little thing. That looks a lot like Peter Gabriel, I think. No, maybe?
Well, not now because he's got no hair, but then, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like, when I looked at him, oh, hey, Peter.
But there were 3 pictures you put up. There was the one of what looked like a man and a woman together.
Yeah. You have the picture of the flying birds.
Yeah, there's the one of the man and woman together. There's one of what looks like a child. And one that looks like a mother.
Is this one?
Yeah. There's one that looks like a child.
Yeah.
And one that looks like a mother. Yeah, that one. And there was another one.
Yeah. And Alice, of course, helped me a lot yesterday.
Yeah. That they reminded me of a story, but again, I think it's quite a gory story for this time of day, and also it's quite I think I won't tell it, but they did remind me of a story. But your 7 sisters reminded me of another story from South Africa. Can I tell it? Can I tell it? Yeah? Okay. So once upon a time, there was a farmer and he had 7 white cattle, 7 of them. They gave the best milk and he was so happy. Every day he would go out and he would milk his cattle, fill the pails, and he would sell the milk around his small village. And sometimes he would go to market. And even though the sun sometimes scorched him darker than he was, he didn't care because he knew that the people needed this milk. And also the milk was nourishment for himself. The only problem was that he was lonely, very lonely, living in his little house, all on his own in the village. One day he came out to milk his cows and found that they were empty. And he couldn't understand why. It had been a full moon the night before, and he couldn't understand why that could affect his cows, whether or not they could give milk. Each one, all 7, nothing. The next morning, he went out again. Same thing, they were empty. He couldn't understand it. So the third night he decided to watch, because perhaps there were thieves. He lived in a remote area. No one in his village would steal from him, but maybe people came from outlying villages to steal the milk. Maybe they'd heard of how good the milk was. So he decided that he would investigate. So he sat beside his house and he waited. And looking up at the face of the full moon, he saw something strange. A moonbeam came down. And floating along the moonbeam were 7 beautiful, dark-skinned women, each carrying their own pail. And each went to a cow, each put their pail under the cow, each rested their face against that cow and each milked that cow until their pail was full. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. 7 beautiful women came down from the moon. But then he was outraged because they'd stolen from him. And 6 of them made their way up the moonbeam. The 7th he caught hold of. And he said, "You, as beautiful as you are, you're a thief. You're a thief and you've stolen my milk." And she said, "I'm sorry, but we don't have such milk where I come from. And we know that yours is the best milk in this region. So I hope you won't mind that we come and help ourselves every so often. It's not all the time, just on a full moon night. I hope you'll let me go now." He said, "No," because by this time he'd really looked at her. By this time he'd looked deep into her eyes, and by this time the loneliness was overwhelming him, and the need was overwhelming him, and the desire was overwhelming him. And he said, "I'll let you go on one condition, that you come back here and you agree to be my wife." And she looked at him and she saw the loneliness and she saw the need. She saw the desire. She saw the isolation and she was willing. So she said, "Let me just take this back to my people, gather my belongings, and I'll come straight back and I will be your wife." And up she went. She disappeared into the moon. At first he didn't think she would come back, but he was hopeful. His heart leapt with joy because here she came down the moonbeam. And he held out his hand to her and she took his hand and he led her into the house. And that's the only time that he noticed that she didn't have anything with her apart from a small basket. And he said to her, "I thought you went to get your belongings." She said, "Everything that I have is here." He was curious. "Well, everything you possess is in that small." She said, "Let's not talk about my basket. Let's go inside." So they went into the house and he showed her the house and hoped that perhaps that together they could make it more homely for the both of them. And she said, "I'm willing to work with you on one condition. This is my basket. You don't touch it. When I'm ready, I will show you what's inside my basket, but until such time, you leave it alone. Do you understand?" And he said, "That's easy, of course." She said, "Good." So she became a farmer's wife and she was happy to do it. They worked together. Every day together, they'd milk those cows. Every day together, they'd go out, they'd sell the milk, they'd come back. They lived, they loved, it was wonderful, they ate. She even encouraged him to maybe do some growing, some planting. And so that's what they started to do. And they started just little to expand. Every evening after the meal, she would go to a cupboard, open the cupboard, take out a basket. She would lift the lid, look inside the basket. She would smile to herself. She'd put the lid on the basket. She'd put it back in the cupboard and close the cupboard. First, he thought nothing of it. It was nothing. It's her basket. She could do what she liked with it. But as time passed and time passed and time passed, she'd open the basket, she'd look at it, she'd smile, she'd close the basket, she'd put it in the cupboard. And it, just a tiny irritation. It was just a tiny irritation. It wasn't massive. It was tiny. But it was there. And time passed. She'd open the basket, look in the basket, close the basket, that big smile on her face. Say, "What are you smiling at?" She said, "Nothing." What's in that basket?" "When I'm ready to share with you," she said, I will share with you. Don't worry. There's nothing to worry about." And then she would comfort him. She would console him. She'd make him feel better. And she understood this man. Time passed. 20 years passed. 20 years of love shared, and milk sold, and land tilled and crops grown. 20 years of, there were no children, but it didn't matter. They had each other. They had this deep love. 20 years of an on and off niggling irritation about that basket. But between them all was well. And then after 20 years, she said, I'm going to go home for a while. I'm going to go see my people. I won't be long. And he said, that's fine, that's fine. And up the moonbeam she went on the next full moon. And as he was sitting in his house which had now been transformed by the love that was shared between them, she'd left food bubbling on the stove. He ate the food. He looked around at his life. I'm a lucky man, he said. I'm a lucky, lucky man. Huh? This started with stealing of milk and has ended with this. Wonderful. And as he looked around his house, his eyes fell on the cupboard. He said to himself, 20 years and she still hasn't shown me what's in that basket. Doesn't seem right. I mean, what can be so important that he found himself walking to the cupboard and opening the cupboard door, looking at the basket. Picked up the basket, he looked at the basket. I mean, what can be so interesting in a wicker basket? And before he knew what he was doing, he lifted the lid and looked inside. Nothing there. Absolutely nothing there. He said all that fuss about nothing, and he put the lid back on the basket. He put the basket back in cupboard and shut the door. Went to sleep. The next morning, his wife was shaking him awake. She said, what did you do? He said, what do you mean, what did I do? She said, what did you do yesterday? I didn't do anything yesterday. I ate the food you left me. It was delicious, by the way. And I went to sleep. She said, you didn't do anything else? No. So you didn't open that cupboard and you didn't take out that basket and you didn't lift the lid and you didn't look inside? Well, she said, did you or did you not? He said, what's the fuss? I don't understand. Why are you so upset? I mean, there's nothing even in that basket. I mean, 20 years of opening the basket, looking in the basket, smiling and I thought I was missing out on something. Nothing to miss out on. The basket's empty. You want to be upset about that, fine, but I don't see what the fuss is. She said, you don't see what the fuss is? I told you, when I was ready to share with you what was in that basket, I would share it with you. And if only you trusted me. I can't stay here, she said. What? He says, I can't stay here. I can't stay here. You've broken trust. You've broken all the trust that I put in you. It's gone. You opened my basket. I have to go. And tonight, I'm going back to my people. And he begged and he pleaded and he begged. Please, he said it. I won't do it again. She said, no, you won't, because I'm going back to my people. I love you, she said, but I can't stay here. Nothing is the same. Everything has changed. What I thought we had here doesn't exist. I must go back to my people. He wept, he pleaded, he begged, she wept. And that evening, when the full moon was up, she took her basket and she went up on that moonbeam and was never seen again. And that's the end of that story.
Again. Oh.
Sorry, Sven. But
Take care of my heart. Take care of it. It's just break it and then, oh no, it's still there. It's still there. It's still there. All right. Oh.
Your seven sisters reminded me.
I'm a married man, so I really deeply understand that there's this thing. Don't go there. Don't go there, right? Just let that be. It's fine. Don't. It's just that. And it's just such a moment of, well, come on. And we have those moments, right? Where we think it doesn't matter. And it's the world.
Yeah.
When my mother
I don't know why.
When my mother died, I was really in a lot of grief, and we went to the funeral, and we came back, and I felt in my house I couldn't stay with my wife, then wife, and I just had to go out, and that was a full moon. It was a night with the full moon, and I still have that feeling whenever I see a full moon, very bright, very clear, that I can communicate straight to my mother.
Oh, that's
Straight up
beautiful.
there. It's just like I reach out there and she's there, and I can just tell her, that's my feeling right now. How do you? And it's just nice just to have that little two-liners conversation with my mother. She's there, speaking Norwegian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Jan. It was really such a great experience to have you around here in the Hewitt.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. I wish I was a bit more energized, but you know, we have good days, bad days, middle days. I think this is a middle day for me.
If you would have been more energized, you would have me. Just I couldn't see anything. I was just going in blind in tears. Thank you. Take care. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank
Lots
you.
of love, brother. Bye.
Love.